A massive win in Waukesha has the North Central Cardinals soaring high. Welcome into the Red Zone, everyone. I'm Kevin Jackman. 62-3 the final against Carroll, led by another hat trick by Brock Rudder and Andrew Kaminsky. Head coach Jeff Thorne, offensive lineman Jake Fiedler, and receiver Blake Williams all on the show to break it all down. And we catch up with the trio of starters who all come from the same high school on this week's Cardinal Corner. We're just getting started. Stay tuned. You've got the Red Zone.
The presenting sponsor of the Red Zone is Athletico, the preferred provider of physical therapy and athletic training for North Central College.
Welcome into the Red Zone and head coach of the football team, Jeff Thorne, and great win at Carroll and Waukesha. You guys executed, you guys got the job done, and I know the result that you wanted was a win, and I think you accomplished that pretty well.
Yeah, we got off to a little bit of a slow start. We scored again on our first drive, but then we stalled on our second drive, and defensively weren't quite as sharp the first few drives as we wanted to be, and then eventually we got things squared away. I think Jake's pick, the interception in the first quarter really helped.
He was pretty fired up. It seemed like everybody else was too.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to talk about Alex Rose. So a funny moment in this game was that he caught this beautiful 80-yard touchdown, made a defender miss. You see this big lumbering tight end go 80 yards downfield, called back.
I know.
So disappointing. But Brock, got him the touchdown. How fun was it to see him finally find pay dirt?
That was the most exciting play of the game, in my opinion. I mean, it was a lot of fun watching him make the throw was great, the catch was great, but then he splits the defense, and this 6'4", 230-pound tight end is outrunning defensive backs, or not getting caught at least.
Yeah.
It showed his athleticism and what he's capable of doing. And fortunately, we were able to get back to him after having that call back and getting him a touchdown later in the game.
Alex is the kind of guy, tight ends in general, especially in your scheme, block a lot. And they're counted on in a way that doesn't show up in the box score. So when you can put them in there, I'm sure that feels pretty good.
Unsung heroes because of the dirty work that they do, much like linemen. They're asked to do a lot of the really physical blocks, the kick-out blocks on defensive ends, the ISO blocks on linebackers. So when they're able to catch the ball, it's fun to watch them get rewarded for what they do on a day-in and day-out basis.
So then right after that play gets called back, and it's just like, come on.
Right.
Ethan Greenfield has the C part right in front of him and goes 91 yards to the house. And we've talked to some of the players that say that he might be the fastest guy on the team. It looked like it on that play.
Yeah, he has very good speed. He's in the 4.5, so that's good at this level. To go 91 yards and not get caught by defensive backs, that's telling you that he's got some speed.
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch. Offensive line did a great job on that play, washed everything down. Ethan made the proper cut, and then it was just a race to the goal line.
I was shocked because anybody goes 91 yards, they're going to be out of breath. He kept running. He just kept running all the way back to the side. I'm like, dude, at some point you're going to need oxygen.
He was fired up. Yeah.
Let's talk about the same thing we talked about last week, which is a hat trick between Brock Rudder and Andrew Kaminsky. You look at the tape, and in the moment, you can't watch every facet of the game, but all of a sudden Andrew will just be wide open.
Yeah.
And you know that they have to be paying attention to this guy. He had 8 touchdowns coming in, and yet here he is again, wide open. It's remarkable.
Yeah, and he did that in 2 quarters.
Yeah,
he played half
that's
the game.
True. Yeah.
And Brock played 1 series into the 3rd quarter. So, it's just kind of a broken record. Those 2 are special together, and we're going to enjoy it as long as we can. The hope is that we can keep doing what we need to do week in and week out, and if we do that, have an opportunity to keep playing, because they deserve it. Those 2 need to get every opportunity to be on the field together that they can.
It'll be a long time before the dust settles, but I know you've seen Tyke Spencer up close.
Yeah.
Is it fair to make that comparison?
Andrew's doing some really special things. He's you don't achieve what he's achieved in our offense in 2.5 years without being really special. Now, keep in mind, Tyke did what he did in 2 years.
Right.
He was, had transferred to us. He was dynamic. He was amazing. We've had a lot of great receivers. Andrew's right there at the very top. He still has time left. So when it's all said and done, at the end of his career, he's going to have numbers that I don't know if they'll be touched.
That's pretty fun.
Same can be said about Brock.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to the offensive line, unsung heroes, like you just mentioned a few moments ago. But they have kept Brock clean for 2 straight weeks. You knocked on wood when I mentioned that earlier. We got to keep that going.
Yeah.
But they've done a really nice job at making sure that pocket remains clean for Brock.
Yeah, they really have. It's been important for us. coming off the loss to Wheaton where we got sacked several times. And, we got a lot of those were in the fourth quarter. So in their defense, we were down at that point and throwing the football, and Wheaton was able to pin their ears back a little bit. So, it all plays together. Defense has to play well so that when we get a lead, we're in the position where we can continue to stay balanced. But they've done a great job the last 2 weeks, and we hope that continues.
Defensive line play. So let's switch to the other side of the football. And only one sack in this game, I believe, but they kept flustering that quarterback, kind of making him uncomfortable. I feel like that unit is getting close to being as dynamic as I know you guys hope that they can be.
Sacks are also a byproduct of coverage. And if you go back all the way to the WashU game, we have had a few sacks in that game.
Yeah.
And on the show, we talked about how we covered and what a great job we did in the secondary. We got to get back to that, where we're taking the quarterback's options away, so he has to hold the ball.
Yeah. When
they hold the ball, it gives your 4 down a chance to get home.
Quickly want to mention Jake Beasley, who had a pick in this game. You alluded to that earlier. Really nice coverage on that particular play.
He did a great job, and we'll see on the tape here in a little bit. We got a little bit of pressure on the quarterback and hit him as he was throwing the ball. So we rushed him, and again, there you go. We get an interception because we got immediate pressure. Defensive football, it all ties together. You got to have all 11 doing what they're supposed to do to stop an offense, whether it's run or pass.
Yeah. Second unit, that's the last thing we'll get to in this segment. They came in and there was zero drop-off.
Yeah, thrilled with the way they came in the second half. Running our offense and running the football. The offensive line did a great job. Rafael Rios got some really exciting carries, and Jake Johnson, at quarterback, spread the ball around when he was asked to throw it. It was fun to watch.
It was awesome. We'll check the tape, but then we'll move the focus over to Carthage, and we'll be right back on the Red Zone.
Stay up to date on what's happening in our neighborhoods and schools, at City Hall, and all across town with NCTV 17 News Update. Emailed directly to your inbox once a day, Monday through Friday, this 2-minute video not only tells you the latest news, but shows it to you.
And that's what's happening right here in Naperville.
And the best part, it's free. So sign up today at nctv17.com/subscribe.
This Red Zone segment is brought to you by Arena Americas, specialists in providing full-service rental solutions for events and special occasions of all sizes.
Welcome back, and now it's time to check the tape. And Coach, the first play I want to get to, and let's spotlight not the person who catches the football, it's Andrew Kaminsky who does special things with it, but a guy that kind of helps spring him free, and this is D'Angelo Hardy.
Yeah, this is a big part of our offense. We talk to our receivers about before you have an opportunity to catch it, you have to commit to becoming a blocker. What kind of a football player are you when you don't have the ball? That's really important. Something that we talk about pretty frequently. But here's a freshman, big physical kid. He's 190, 195 pounds that can run, and that pays dividends in perimeter blocking when you're big and strong and have good feet.
And I feel like wide receivers are prone to holding calls only because they're out in space and all the attention is right there in space. And obviously the execution there was pretty flawless.
Yeah, the number of times that we've been called for holding when we've put a defensive back on his back. It happened with Blake on Saturday.
Yeah.
It was textbook teach tape blocking.
Yeah.
And just oftentimes they happen to look late and see a guy going down and there's an assumption that's made.
Yep.
It was very, very well done. Hands were inside, ran his feet, and finished a block.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes those get called, But I'll live with that because they're doing what they're coached to do.
Exactly, right. Next play, we talked about this in the first segment, but Jake Beasley, and we've talked a lot in the past about cornerback play and the intricacies of it, and I think this was pretty textbook as well.
Yeah, he does a great job of staying connected with the receiver, gets his eyes around late, and there's the football, and he reacts, makes a great pick. Great athlete, we've talked about it before, but there's the pressure you see in the hit on the quarterback that forced him to get it out a little sooner than maybe he wanted to.
And we talked to D'Angelo Roberson last week, and he was talking about how Jake's the kind of guy that wants to get his hands on you at the line of scrimmage because you get 5 yards, and he's going to use those 5 yards to put you off your route. That has to be, for a receiver, frustrating because you want to get into your break or your route or whatever you have to do.
Well, and that's where his length at 6'3" and athleticism make him really, really hard to deal with as a receiver. So we give him a lot of freedom. With the athleticism he has, want him to do what he's most comfortable with within the framework of our defense. But great play. It was great to see that.
And then we talked about the defensive line. And on this play, Cameron Martin, who we haven't talked a ton about, combines with Isaiah Ziegler, and these two guys bring down Johnson.
You know, Cam's calling card is his ability to, you know, get within the frame of the defensive lineman and create a pass rush through the defensive lineman. He's done a great job for us. He kind of burst on the scene last year, getting a lot of playing time, and this year he's just continuing to grow in the defense.
And obviously Dan Gilroy on the outside hasn't had the flashy stats, but I feel like he's collapsing the pocket more often.
You know, Danny's dealt with a lot the last few weeks. He sprained his ankle severely on Tuesday of the Wheaton week, and if you watch that game, you see him literally playing on one leg. He did a great job giving us everything he could. Slowly, he's been getting healthy, and then on top of it, on Saturday, we had to send him home on our walk through Friday. He was so sick. So, you know, he'd lost 8 pounds last week, so he's playing Saturday while under the weather. So hopefully he's feeling better this week. You know.
That's awesome. That he's kind of a road warrior. That's pretty cool. Carthage is up next. And this is a team that you guys have had success against in the last few years. But they always bring it intensity-wise. They're not just going to roll over for you guys. They're ready to play.
You know, we've got a ton of respect for the way they play. They play hard. They play physical. They'll come, and they're going to be working really hard to notch a victory against the Cardinals. But we'll expect the same kind of things from them. Physical football at the line of scrimmage, and they've got athletes on the outside and at quarterback that are going to make it difficult for us. The quarterback, I think, threw for 483 yards last week and 5 touchdowns.
Wow.
And they scored 53 points. So we've got our work cut out for us again. They're going to be a really good football team, and look forward to the challenge.
They always seem to have a different look offensively than maybe typical teams do. Is that the same case this year?
Yeah, you know, they're a little different in how they execute their version of the run-pass option. It's a little bit slower than what a lot of teams do, but it creates matchup issues for you in the defensive secondary. And they've got one receiver, number 11. They've got multiple receivers that are talented, but number 11 has been on fire. I think he has 37 catches in the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
So, you know, that's a guy we're going to be mindful of.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this last week before the show, but there was the matchup in 2009 against Carthage that you still remember.
Oh yeah, 63-48. That was a heck of a game. I think their quarterback threw for over 500 yards, and it was literally a track meet. Going up and down the field. Coach Janasek played in that game. He was clean shaven too. He was the first guy interviewed after the game. Right?
A little bit. I'm sure you don't exactly want that result this time around.
No, not at all.
I'm sure those games are fun to be in the moment, but certainly as a coach, you want to.
You know, you want the W, and that's at the end of the day. That's what matters most. How it takes shape. We would prefer not to give up 48 points. And I don't. You know, our defense is playing really well right now, and there's some challenges there, but I don't think we'll give up 48 points.
You hope not.
Yeah. Exactly.
Quick hit time. So, what is your favorite pie? We're getting into pie baking season.
You know, when it's on Thanksgiving, I love pumpkin pie. But I think if I had to go to, I'm not a huge pie guy. But if I had to go to one, I would go French silk.
Interesting.
That's
a family favorite of ours as well.
Okay, good.
So, and also, I'm just curious, fantasy football. You.
It's been years since I did it. Back in college, I did. I think I remember back when the Buffalo Bills were going to Super Bowls every year. Thurman Thomas was my guy, so he scored a lot of points for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, good luck against Carthage.
Thanks, Kevin.
We'll see you next week. Coming up next, we have a couple of offensive guys joining me. We'll be right back on the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is brought to you by Jimmy John's.
We get our first defensive play of the game courtesy of Jake Beasley. The athletic corner jams his man at the line and sticks with him on the deep ball, playing it perfectly for the pick. It's his second of the season. The defensive line able to get pressure, and that forces Carroll to throw it up. And the Cardinals pounce and don't miss their chance. That gives Beasley the Red Zone's play of the game.
Welcome back into the Red Zone. A couple of offensive guys joining me on set today. A couple of first-timers, too. Blake Williams, Jake Fiedler. Guys, welcome. And I think you're coming off probably the biggest win of the season so far. Let's see, a 59-point gap there, 62-3. Jake, pretty outstanding performance in this one. You guys walking away feeling pretty good?
Yeah, it was a pretty good win. The twos got in, and it's not from there, so we got to be happy about that.
Yeah. I mean, there was no drop-off either.
We really pride ourselves running on the ball when we get in there and
Yeah.
having a good time with it and smiling with each other and getting going. So it's pretty fun out there.
You guys were opening up some pretty good holes for especially Rafael Rios. But even when you didn't, he was still breaking out there.
Yes, he did. He's got speed. When he gets out there, he goes.
But he
is fun to
also,
watch.
it almost looks like he's hitting people.
Yeah. That one play he had when he was hit and then kept going.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I saw it on film. I was like, oh my gosh. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So the receiving core, we've talked about this, Coach and I, every week this year, is Andrew's a phenom, and you're just complimenting him on the other side. You're this deep threat that can also run out there. How fun is it, that dynamic between the two of you?
It's really fun. Me and Drew we got to know each other a lot this off season, and I just think that just paid off a lot. We know each other. I know what he's good at. He knows what I'm good at, and we just feed off each other. That
deep ball that Brock throws to you, that is a thing of beauty. How often do you guys work on that?
This summer, we got together a lot, and we threw a lot of balls in 7-on, and I think it just connected in the 7-ons. He's throwing me a lot of deep balls, and we were just hitting in 7-ons, so it just carried on to the season.
It's a lot of wind sprints. You gotta be pretty winded after all that.
Yeah, sometimes I get tired, but I got a second wind to me, so I just keep going.
There was one catch in particular this season that I was maybe more impressed with than anything else, and it was the touchdown catch against Wheaton. Yeah. Through the pass interference on the goal line, you went up, you got it. Take me through that play. What was going through your mind there?
I just ran fast, and I got behind the dude, and I was like, "Oh, Rudder's got to be looking over here. I'm behind him." He threw it, and I just went up and made a play. I mean, I think any of our receivers can make plays. I just made a play at the certain time. Yeah.
Pretty humble.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. I can say it was pretty awesome. I think you can probably say the same.
I was out there for that one, and it was pretty cool to watch you go up there. I was like, yeah, Blake.
So it's been a fun carousel on the offensive line, too. You got you, Ebert, Bachneck, I'm blanking on somebody else. Who's the other tackle that's in the rotation right now?
Derek Murphy.
Yes. And you guys seem to be having a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, we do. And me and Colton live together, so that's fun, too. And then we got Ebert. Ebert's always funny in the locker room. We're always messing around, and it's a good group together. So we always kind of challenge each other to do the right things and fix each other technique and make sure our hands are in the right places and stuff like that.
So I was telling Blake before we hopped on that I've seen him always so intense. I don't think I've ever seen you without a smile. You're on the other side of that spectrum. You always just seem loose. Is that just kind of the way you go about things?
Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing that fired me up is the drum line and kind of lock in right there.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of my thing. When I hear the drums start going, we start walking down the ramp there. That's kind of when I lock it in and let's go do this thing. But yeah, I'll start smiling even in the locker room, and yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. So you guys got Carthage coming up. You guys pretty excited about this game, Blake?
Yeah, I've had this game in my eyes for a minute.
Ooh, why?
Just personal reasons why. I just think it's going to be a very competitive game, and they're going to play intense. So I love that. I love that about a game.
Interesting. Jake, feeling good about this one?
Yeah, feeling good about it. We'll get prepared each and every single day, like we do, and watching film. And it's nice living with Ricky and Colton. We all put film on the TV, so watching together and talking about things we see. Yeah, and they're going to come play a hard physical game, and we'll be ready for that. I know we have a little chip this year because last year didn't go the way we wanted. Yep. But we're going to be ready this year, and we're going to go do our thing out there.
Carthage always brings it.
Yes, they do.
Awesome. You guys ready for the quick hits?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Awesome. Blake, we'll start with you. Fantasy football, right in the middle of things. What's the best fantasy football move you've ever made?
This year, got the undefeated team.
You do?
Undefeated.
Do you want to take my teams and work a little magic with those?
Sure. Best pickup I made this year was drafting my boy Lamar Jackson. And then I drafted the tight end from the Raiders last round, Darren Waller.
Darren Waller. Yeah. He's been huge.
He's solid. He's solid.
Jake?
I'm going to go with, in one of my leagues, I got George Kittle and Zach Ertz in a snake draft, back-to-back picks.
How does that?
I don't know. I went with the two tight ends. They're pretty high in the rankings, so that's what I took.
Nice.
So I put one of my flex and one of my tight end.
You're monopolizing the top tight ends. That's a bold move. That's a good one.
That's what I went with. So.
Nice. We'll start with you, Jake. Favorite kind of pie?
Cherry pie.
Cherry pie.
Cherry pie.
All right. Mm-hmm. With the crust, without like the crisscross? Any particular style of?
No,
just the cherry pie.
It's not burnt crust. No, that's sometimes.
I feel you have experience with burnt crust.
Yeah, but I don't know. Just a good cherry pie. Hey, no ice cream though. I'm not a big ice cream guy on the pie.
Oh,
which,
all right.
I don't know if
you
some
just
people
want to
like
enjoy
that.
the pie.
Just enjoy the pie. If it's hot, fresh too, it's the way to go.
Nice. Little microwaving is always the way to go. Blake?
My favorite pie is 4-berry pie from Whole Foods. They only get it like every Thursday. You warm it up in the microwave, vanilla ice cream on top.
Do you get in line before the store opens every Thursday?
My mom usually gets there before all the pies are gone, so I love that pie.
You guys are pie fanatics. I like this. Last one. Blake, we'll start with you. What position would you lobby the coaches to play for just for fun?
Safety.
Safety?
Yeah.
You'd be doing the hitting.
I would love to hit some dudes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not afraid of contact.
So Beasley switched to that side of the football. Obviously, it's working out for you at wide receiver right now, but that's interesting. Cool. Jake?
I'm going with quarterback. Yeah. I feel like I got a can. I was a catcher in high school, so I feel like I got it. Lose a couple pounds. And
Not a running back?
No.
Don't want to be squeezing through those holes?
No, I do not. And not that fast, so.
Well, guys, thanks for hopping on. We appreciate it. Good luck against Carthage.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we'll go to the Cardinal Corner. We'll be right back on the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is sponsored by Belgio's Catering.
They may be from Bloomington Normal, but these aren't Illinois Wesleyan guys.
Wesleyan came into our high school and talked to us, but I never really got the same vibes from the North Central coaches I did from the Wesleyan coaches. I actually never even went to go visit Wesleyan. That might be surprising, but once I came on campus North Central, had the overnight, met the guys, it was a no-brainer for me.
Storm Simmons and Ben Wong share similar feelings. 3 contributors to the conference's second-ranked defense, North Central has a trio of players who hail from Titan territory.
We talk about it like trying to make, everyone back from our high school, our old coaches and teachers proud. The normal boys doing big things, in the classroom.
And they are certainly doing just that. In fact, football aside, there's a heavy emphasis being placed on schoolwork.
Actually, Storm and I do a lot of homework dates on Friday nights, so that consists of a lot of the hanging out, just because we're busy with football and school most of the time.
Ben and I are always doing homework together, always doing homework together. And we've had a relationship since 7th grade, so I've known him a while. And Dakota, I didn't really know well until high school, but Dakota's always in a good mood, always putting a smile on my face,
It's been like that for 3 years now, with the trio all juniors. And though Ben and Storm battle daily at the same position, they're still close on and off the field.
It was tough at first to have to compete against somebody who I cared a lot about in high school and just growing up. And it was definitely an adjustment, but I'm very happy for whoever's out on the field between either of us.
And their collective nickname?
Yes, they call us the Normal Boys. I'm actually sometimes the forgotten child of the Normal Boys. Coach likes to say Ben and Storm, since they're the tandem linebackers, they say the Normal Boys making plays. I just raise my hand in the back. I'm also from Normal, so yeah, it's fun though.
This year, North Central hosts Illinois Wesleyan. A little piece of home coming to Naperville for the Normal Boys.
Here to close out the show, Clark Tusher, Sports Information Director. And Clark, men's and women's cross country both racing to the finish line quite literally in every sense of the words. But let's start with the women's team because they are really finishing strong. They've got the kick.
Yeah, they went up to, both teams went up to Oshkosh this weekend. It's a very big meet. It's one they've been going to for a long time. And because of that, they have a lot of data they can fall back on previous seasons to kind of compare themselves to see what they can expect in the postseason. And on the women's side, 7th place out of 34 teams, 4th among teams in their own region, and then also they finished 1st among the 6 other conference teams that were in the meet. So certainly a strong showing for a team that still isn't running with the full squad, and they probably won't the rest of the season, but certainly seem to be rounding into form at the right time.
And then the men's team, they're doing exactly what they typically do as well.
Came into the week ranked, sharing the #1 ranking with Williams College out in Massachusetts, a team we won't see until nationals. Mm-hmm. And both teams were running in very big, prestigious meets over the weekend, and just the same old story, just different different names in the results, moving up steadily through a very large field throughout the meet. Out of more than 500 finishers, 5 guys in the top 15. Only 4 of which were, in that hunt a year ago. One of which was in that hunt a year ago. So, the term reload has been used quite a bit, but it's not entirely accurate because those guys were already here.
Right.
Certainly a pretty convincing victory, which put them back into sole possession of number 1 this week, which actually gives them a record for the most consecutive weeks at the top of that poll, men's or women's.
Did they not already have that record?
The Johns Hopkins University women actually shared the record with them for the most weeks in a row at number 1. So this put them ahead of that this week.
So I think officially they have every single record on the book.
We think so. There's always something that seems to pop up whenever we say that. So
it's some obscure one from the 1920s.
That's about all that's left.
Al was only 2 years into coaching at that point.
Exactly. Is keeping time with a sundial and things like that.
So let's move to another team that just constantly wins, and that's the triathlon team, and they're back at it again this past weekend.
Went out to Virginia for the East Region qualifier. Had already qualified for nationals, but this is a regular part of their preparation for nationals. Get to see a lot of the teams that you're going to see at nationals and maybe don't see at any other time in the season. And wound up finishing, they had 4 athletes in the top 10 individual finishers, including the individual champion Madeline Scopp, who's been, the swim portion of the race was the area where she really felt like she needed work at the beginning of the year. That's been coming along, and certainly nobody can hang with her when it comes to the running portion of these events.
Well, let's wrap up with football. And typically we don't talk football, but I think there's some interesting perspective here because they're ranked, I believe, 7th or 8th in the D3 football poll.
7th in that one and then 8th in the coaches poll.
That's right. So, but those polls don't exactly tell the full story as to the playoff picture because we won't get maybe a piece of that picture until later on, right?
The NCAA's regional rankings that are going to come out a little later in the season, they'll do about 3 versions of those rankings to come out. Those are based on, mathematical criteria based on, the records of the teams that you play and, strength of schedule, all those kinds of things. Those polls that we're looking at right now, those are votes by people who, have signed on to be members of those polling groups. So those do not have any bearing on those region rankings. And the region rankings are one of the tools that the Division III football committee will use in determining the field of 32 that makes the postseason. A lot of those 32 bids are automatic qualifying bids tied to conferences. So again, those region rankings aren't necessarily a point-by-point breakdown of who's going to make the field because you also have to factor in those qualifiers who maybe fall outside of those rankings but win their conference. So kind of intentionally, it's left pretty ambiguous until the day of the announcement, the Sunday after the regular season ends. But that probably gives you a little better idea of who might be in the bid for those at-large qualifiers to the national championship.
It's one of those things where typically we don't have that conversation with the football team because they're focused on the next week, but we like to look a little further down the road, don't we?
Well, planning does help. It's a big part of what we do. So making sure that we have resources in place for any additional events that come up is an important thing for us. So, we're content to allow the coaches to focus on the games in front of them, which is important because, if they don't win, then none of this, matters. So, so we kind of take that approach of keeping one eye on what's going to be happening down the road, and that seems to work out pretty well.
All right, so my other eye is fixed on the quick hit. And the quick hit this week is, what is your favorite kind of pie? We're coming up to the fall season. And I feel like there's a lot of pie baking going on around this time of year. So what's your favorite?
I have to go raspberry.
Raspberry?
That's a childhood favorite. My family has a raspberry patch that grows wild behind the house. So those raspberries literally travel about 50 feet before they make it into a pie. The challenge is getting your hands on it before my dad gets to it because there typically isn't a whole lot left. But that's it's a pretty specific one, but that's one for me.
Truthfully, I don't think I've ever had raspberry pie.
Oh, you're missing out.
Well, you know what? How about this? Bring one in.
If I can get my hands on a free one, that's probably the biggest challenge. But that's, you've got it. If I can get it, it's yours.
Awesome. Clark, thanks for swinging by. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's it for the Red Zone. Carthage comes to town next. 1 o'clock kickoff. The pregame begins at 12:45 on NCTV 17 and on NorthCentralCardinals.com. Until next week, I'm Kevin Jackman. This has been the Red Zone.